What's going on, guys? Today we have the July 2018 tier list, and I'm not titling it like 6.0 tier list just because I think it's going to be a little bit different from here on out. It might just be best to make a tier list like after every couple months once like a new bot gets released. Yeah, it won't be every month, it'll be every few months or so. We'll revisit this tier list, we'll switch around some stuff depending on if bots get like a nerf or a buff. And with the addition of new bots, of course, this list is probably going to shuffle around, and I'll try to keep it consistent as far as like two like god tier characters per class, and then after that, we can rank everyone else accordingly. But keep in mind, guys, this is 100% my opinion, and every bot is viable in like a certain aspect of the game. You just gotta find that that bot that works best for you. But anyways, we're gonna dive right into here, and I don't know what I did. How do I get out of here? Okay, here we go. Okay, so starting off with the tacticians, I'm not going to talk too much about like certain bots. I'm just going to mainly go hint at like their pros, not so much their cons. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So for the tacticians, we have Optimus Prime and Megatron as god tier characters for this class. And I think there's no denying Optimus as being, one of the best bots in the game. Armor breaks, consistent, 100% guaranteed crits on armor broken opponents. He has, a bunch of attack damage that he gains whenever he does a heavy. His armor buffs don't last that long, but he's got that as well. His synergy with Ratchet, I think it's undeniably one of the best synergies in the game and makes him like super OP. And then you have Megatron, who can permanently apply debuffs as well as steal buffs with his signature, and that makes him extremely good in like spotlight missions as well as like in alliance missions. Any bot you fight against that has a mod, this guy can steal the buff for a couple seconds, and sometimes it just causes him to do crazy amounts of damage. Like in the ROTK video against Primal, Megatron was doing close to like 20 to 30,000 damage in total with just a special one every time he would steal Primal's attack buff, which is insane. So both of these guys, in my opinion, god tier characters. Then you have Ultra Magnus, Dinobot, and Starscream. These guys, I put them as A tier, not even S tier in my opinion. Ultra Magnus, ever since he got his buff, I think he's definitely a lot better. I don't know if he's, S tier wise or S tier worthy, but he does more damage on mainly opponents that gain armor buffs, and he does decent damage, I'm not gonna lie. But I don't know if he's up there with the likes of Optimus or Megatron. Or yeah, Dinobot, same boat. I think special one just applies armor breaks. His signature, it's a little bit useless in my opinion. He has a chance at his basic attacks becoming unblockable on armor broken opponents, which isn't really going to amplify his damage that much. His special 2 just does I think he gets like a crit rate buff, and it's just a 2-hit. And his special 3, it's a little inconsistent on the repairs. The repairs are always good, any bot that can heal is good in my opinion, but Dinobot, his honestly varies every now and then. So I don't know, I just feel like he lacks a little bit in the damage department, and the only thing going for him in my opinion is probably the Swordmaster synergy. That's what keeps him afloat and makes him decent. Then you have Starscream. This guy, I thought he was gonna be like really good when he first came out, but the null ray is the only thing that's really good for this guy, and of course using it on opponents that gain armor buffs, attack buffs. And once you dupe him, I think the null ray affects just about every other buff, so he can be really good, and he can shine against characters that get buffs, particularly a lot of the brawlers like what's his name, like MV1 constantly refreshing the armor, Grinder constantly getting armor buffs, same with Primal. He can do a lot of damage with that null ray, and it's amazing whenever it does work out. But against some other characters that don't gain buffs, I feel like he doesn't shine as much. Then you have Bumblebee. Oh, Tactician Bumblebee, when are you ever going to be released? When it's coming out, I'm going to let you out. Probably never. Maybe when December rolls around and, the new Bumblebee movie comes out, we may get him there, but don't get your hopes up, guys. Who knows when he's coming out. On to the Demolition class. And then we have Netflix notification, interview with the vampire. Alright. Let's see, demo class. So Ironhide, god tier character. Megatron, god tier character. I think these two guys have maintain like the God tier status for quite a long time, for almost a year now. Ironhide's been extremely good, especially with like burns on his heavies. Megatron has also been extremely good, getting those impaired charges, getting a heavy, and you know, free easy 2000 plus damage with just the heavy on impaired charges. And I think that's what makes these two guys extremely good. Ironhide, that burst, Megatron super tanky as well, great, excellent base defender in my opinion. And then you have Galvatron, Mixmaster, and Waspinator. So all of these guys, honestly, they burst down their opponents pretty quickly. Galvatron, I ranked mine up to rank 3, and that dark energy burn that he can do, it does some pretty crazy damage. You know, you just see it stockpile up every time you get lucky on like a heavy, you get 30 charges. This guy does massive amounts of damage. Same with Mixmaster, the legendary Mix Daddy guys. He's not one to be trifled with, in my opinion. I know I bash on him a lot. He's honestly really good, as long as you get a lot of buffs up, and then you apply like an acid debuff on the opponent, go for a special 3, and you just see this guy do massive amounts of damage. And same with Waspinator, you get a couple of range shots in, get some what is it called? The debuff, some resistance debuffs, and then go for a special 2 or a special 3. Massive amounts of damage coming out of that guy as well. And then you have, I put Ramjet down at the very end, A tier in my opinion. So I don't have a 4-star Ramjet, and from what I've seen from like some of the other players that do have a Ramjet, he's not that bursty in my opinion. He's decent to an extent where, you know, he applies burns on the opponent, and then with the heavy he has a chance to stun the opponent, when stuns are always extremely good. And he also gains, I think, special damage on his heavies, but it's not that much. I know they stack up to like 10 times, but I mean, you're going to be having the opponent 10 times just to increase your special damage by a certain amount, when the likes of Mixmaster gets a bunch of special damage buffs just by honestly doing nothing. So yeah, definitely going to put Ramjet at the bottom of the list for the demo class, but you know, he's not the worst bot in my opinion. And onto the scouts. So we have Windblade, Prowl, and Jazz that I ranked as god tier characters. Windblade, honestly, extremely good bot. Bleeds just completely melt the opponent. Range attacks on bleeding opponents have a chance to stun. And honestly, it's just mainly her bleeds that make her extremely good. Pair her up with like the Swordmaster synergy, and she just takes off. Does so much bleed damage, so much crit damage, and just insanely a really good bot, to be honest. Prowl, amazing power control, melee buffs. I think a lot of people, including myself, just use him for like that utility on the special 1. You can power control the opponent so well with Prowl, and I think that's what makes him like honestly like extremely good. Not to mention those, once you get like 10 melee buffs, he does so much damage. And moving on to Jazz. So the recently introduced Jazz for the month of June. I think you know, I fell in love with this guy as soon as I started playing with him, and this guy is honestly god tier, but he's made for those super long extended fights, and I'm gonna say that he's a god tier character only in like the Legends of Cybertron missions. He's so extremely good. I would say S tier in like spotlight missions or normal missions, but yeah, this guy honestly, once you get special 3 off, pair him up with Optimus, and he just does some insane amounts of damage. And the fact that he can bait out or force the opponent to bait out specials whenever you confuse the opponent with like a heavy, I think that's extremely good and a really good lifesaver. You know, once the opponent is close to that special 3 mark, and yeah, you just use a heavy, get them confused, force them to use a special, and you know, you're safe once again. So really good bot. Oh man, I've been talking for a while. Alright, so moving on, we got Cheetor, Bumblebee, Kickback, and Barricade as S tier characters. So Cheetor, he's honestly extremely good in my opinion. The ability block that he has, or not, sorry, it's not ability block, is it? I think it's heal block on his special 1. It allows him to, you know, be able to control the fight against the likes of like Waspinator or people that heal, and I think that's extremely good in my opinion. He also does some pretty good damage, and he can dash into range attacks, and his damage is decent, as well as pair him up with the rest of like the Beast Wars characters, and you got yourself a nice you know, squad full of Beast Wars bots. Bumblebee, I think this guy, the IDW Scout Bumblebee, I think he's extremely good. I don't have him unfortunately, but every time I do use him in the arena and I go up against like a Rhinox, you know, you just see the effectiveness of this guy in certain situations. And whenever he's up close to the opponent, he's constantly power gaining extra melee damage, I believe. And he seems like super fun to play with. If he ever does come around again, I suggest going for him in the crystals. I'll definitely open up some more for him, and hopefully we can get him as a 4-star, get him ranked up. Feel like he'd be a good addition to just about any team. Then you have Kickback. So Kickback, a little bit on the low side of damage. I don't regret ranking this guy up. I think he's really good in his own regards. You know, the power drains on his normal attacks is really good. Sorry, not power drains, power leaks. And then you know, use a special 1, get the shock damage according to how many power leaks you have. Special 2 can apply a bunch of power leaks, and special 3 can heal him by quite a decent amount. So honestly, I really like Kickback. It's unfortunate that they nerfed him like on the second day that he got released, because I thought he was super OP because you were constantly keeping those power leaks refreshed. But nope, they took that off. You gotta wait till they actually expire before you can apply or refresh any power leaks, which kind of sucks, but doesn't hurt him that much. And I also added this little side note on him. He's a raid god in my opinion, just because he can deal with bots that are on like a robot resource mod, or any bot that has like a power flow or power gain mod. This guy just uses a heavy, and not to mention he also has that T-Clog ability, which can stun the opponent if they were to use like a heavy. But it also removes that power gain, which is really amazing, and as well as I think he shrugs off shocks with heavies, which is also can be really good. So yeah, I recommend taking this guy on raids and just seeing how well he does. And then Barricade, another S-tier character in my opinion. Backfire procs are no joke. They do a lot of damage. This guy can keep him, you know, stacked up on the opponent. He has, I think, Power Steal on special 2. And then his special 3 is decent as well. It does some decent damage. And finally, you have Sideswipe. Sideswipe, I got him as a 4-star recently. I don't have him duped. And duped, he gains a lot of power, I think, at the beginning of the fight. It's not that much, but, you know, it's starts you off with maybe like a special 1 or special 2 after a couple of minutes, or not minutes, couple seconds into the fight. He also got a buff recently where he does burn on like his special 2 and as well as on his special 3, but I don't think that saves him from being like the worst bot out of the scouts. He does damage, he gets a lot of crits and crit damage as well, but I don't think that makes up for the fact that he's kind of on the low end of damage. Up next, guys, we have the Brawler class. So Optimus Primal, MV1, and Motormaster. I rank these guys as god tier characters. I know previously I think I had to put Motormaster as number 1. I've kind of rethought my my rating for these bots, and I put Primal at number 1. I think he's honestly like a really good bot. He does need to be duped in order to take full effect of like him purifying and like debuffs as well as bleeds. I know the bleeds are able to heal him. The crit armor buff I think is like the main thing going for this guy. Put him up against any scouts and this guy will tear scouts apart. You know, they won't be able to crit him or do any sort of bleed damage to him, and if they do, you know, this guy's just gonna heal it right back up. And just for that reason, he's also a raid god, just because he can purify you know, harm accelerators and, you know, heal off of them. So really good bot in my opinion. Same goes for MV1. I feel like the Brawler class honestly has 3 of the best bots, you know, for taking along with you on raids, and I think these guys are definitely a must on raids. So you got MV1 up next, you know, armor buffs, melee damage buffs. Special 1 can do crazy amounts of damage. His signature, what is it? I'll take you all on. Super amazing signature. It's unfortunate that it doesn't last that long. It only lasts like 7 or 8 seconds and then, you know, it's over. But during that time, MV1 is a complete monster. You don't want to get anywhere near him. Special 1, I've heard people say it does like close to like 20 or 30,000 damage on like a crit, which is insane. So can't wait till I rank my MV1 up to rank 5 one of these days. Watermaster, there's no going wrong. I feel like that guy is like the most noob friendly bot in the game, as far as like, you know, you just do a dash, unstoppable dash, sometimes guarantees you a hit, sometimes it puts you in a bit of trouble, but this guy does so much damage, it's insane. Special 1, very lackluster. I feel like don't ever bother using a special 1 unless it's going to be used to finish off the opponent. Special 2 is mainly the way to go. Special 3, it sucks that it inflicts damage to you. I feel like that's one of the reasons that, you know, I took him down a couple notches. I don't know why it does damage to you. It really shouldn't. I feel like that's that should be removed from Motormaster. But the debuffs he applies on his heavies are also extremely good. Then you have Grimlock. So Grimlock, I would put him as God tier only if he would purify damaging debuffs almost instantly, kind of like how MV1 does. Whenever he gets like 2 bleeds on him, he'll purify one of them just immediately. So one of the reasons is Grimlock, I took him with me in Revenge of the King against Rhinox, and you know, I was getting shocked, and the shock damage was doing a lot of damage to me, like per tick. And you know, he doesn't purify them almost immediately. You still take like 2 or 3 ticks worth of damage, which really sucks. And if you're fighting against the bot that's like, you know, crazy prestige and has high attack, that damage is gonna hurt and it's gonna add up. But he's still really good regardless in like spotlight missions and raids. In raids, of course, he's a raid god. Go up against a harm accelerator, start the fight with 1 melee damage buff, and you know, he's just amazing in that area, I guess. And then Grinder, super tanky bot. I feel like this guy mainly shines as like a base defender. I don't play with him too much. He's super tanky. Special 2, I know, deals quite a decent amount of damage, but that's about it for Grinder. And then the tech class characters. Honestly, for this class, I really couldn't decide. I think it's undeniable as well that Ratchet is like the god tier character out of this class. I know he doesn't do as much damage as some of these other guys, but there's no denying the heal and the power gain that he gets once he's below 50%, and a special 3 can sometimes do a lot of damage. His shocks as well do decent damage, and then you can keep the opponent stun locked with like a special 1, so I feel like that's extremely good for Ratchet. And just overall in general, I feel like he's a really good bot. Shockwave, ever since his buff, man, this guy's been on a whole another level of terror. I really cannot wait until I'm able to get like a 4-star or 5-star Shockwave. I'll definitely rank this guy up. But yeah, this guy is honestly amazing. His shock damage on his special 1 does a lot, as well as power drain, I believe. And then special 2 is really good, and then special 3 can also prevent repair, like against Waspinator, and does a bunch of damage with those shock procs. So really good bot in my opinion. Rhinox as well. Rhinox, Mirage, Soundwave, and Blaster. These guys, sort them around accordingly to however you guys like. Rhinox's shields, really good, as well as bleeds. Mirage, I feel like Mirage is like on the same boat as Jazz, where they're extremely good for like the long extended fights with like a special 3, then you dodge a bunch of attacks, get a bunch of attack buffs. I really like Mirage though. His special 2, you know, attack buff decrease, and special 1 power burn is really good. Soundwave power gains on heavies. He's definitely on the low end of damage though. Special 3 is a little lackluster on damage. Special 1 can stun and power leak sometimes, and then special 2 just gives him that it does good damage, and it just gives him enough power, gives him that power gain buff that allows him to get up to a special 3. And then Blaster, don't play with him too much. You know, getting those amp charges on special 1 increases his range damage, which is really good. He also does shock on his range, and I think his special 3 is an attack debuff, which is also really good depending on how many what do you call it, amp charges you have. So I feel like Blaster is decent. So Yeah, tech class characters, man, they're honestly like some of the best bots in the game in my opinion. And then finally, guys, the warrior class. So here we have Drift, Bone Crusher at God tier. So I think there's no denying Drift being one of the best bots in the game. Same with Bone Crusher. Lots of bleeds coming out of these guys. Drift has also that precision buff, which helps fight against characters that have evade. And same with Bone Crusher, kind of. Mainly for Bone Crusher, it's his signature. And the fact that whenever he gets hit by a crit, he has a chance to inflict a bleed on the opponent, which is amazing. This guy honestly makes scouts' lives a living hell. And I think Kabam learned that these past couple months. They've been applying, that bleed immune mod to a lot of the bots. So yeah, thanks Kabam for ruining the fun with Bone Crusher and the rest of these warriors. But oh well. I feel like Bone Crusher, honestly, he's still like an extremely good bot. Then you have RC and Hot Rod. So a lot of people don't really play too much with RC. She's honestly like a ranged headshot bleed goddess in my opinion. She does so much damage. My coworker has RC at rank 5 as a 4-star, and she just melts opponents so quickly. As well as she power gains a lot, especially whenever she gets crits. She gets a bunch of power, so I feel like she's extremely good there. Hot Rod deceleration increases his crits as well as prevents evasion from the opponent. And once you get a bunch of crit stacks going and you use like a special 2, this guy does some pretty crazy damage as well. And then Bludgeon, I feel like honestly, I think I might go back into this list and change Bludgeon from A tier to S tier. He's good. The only thing I don't like, of course, is his signature. Anything that requires you to miss or get hit from like in battle, I feel like that's not efficient. He can do damage. His bleeds are honestly, I feel like, some of the strongest bleeds in the game. They have a low chance of activating though. I think only like a 20-something% chance of activating a bleed on a crit. But when they do activate though, they do a bunch of damage. So yeah. It's also a super tanky bot with that armor buff. And then I think that's about it, guys. Oh wait, no, we're missing a bot. Who are we missing? Who are we missing? Oh, there he is. Alright guys, so so I know I bash on Hound a lot. Honestly, the only thing that saves this guy from being any lower, in my opinion, from being like down here, is his synergies. The fact that he can heal MV1 and Drift, I feel like that's the only thing that makes him relevant in the game. And, you know, there's going to be people that say, oh, but you have no idea, you're playing him wrong. You know, maybe eventually one of these days when I do get Hound duped, maybe I'll invest all of my mastery points into like ranged masteries that increase like damage in that way. But the rest of these warriors, in my opinion, are honestly a million times better than him. Until Kabam gives him a buff on like his ranged burns, I feel like he's not going to be that relevant. I do see some players have him as like a rank 5, but that's mainly just, you know, to go along with the synergy for MV1 and Drift. But yeah, I'm so sorry, Hound. I really thought you were going to be like a demo bot and do a bunch of damage, and that would have been really good. They made you a warrior, and you know, it's not your fault, of course, but one of these days, Hound, you'll get a pretty decent buff, and then we'll move you up on the list. But for now, I think he's pretty comfortable down here. So yeah, go ahead and let me know, guys, what you guys think of this tier list. Let me know your opinions as well per class. I would like to know. Yeah, and maybe next month or in a couple months, we'll go ahead and redo this list. I know Tantrum is coming out this upcoming week, so we'll see where he fits. May just talk about it in a video, like where I think he fits on the Brawler tier list, and you know, we'll go from there once a couple more bots get released. So thanks for watching, guys, and let me know your opinion.